Eugenio Berríos Sagredo, November 14, 1947, 1992, was a Chilean biochemist who worked for the DINA intelligence agency. Berríos was charged with carrying out Proyecto Andrea, in which Pinochet ordered the production of sarin gas, a chemical weapon used by the DINA. Sarin gas leaves no trace and victims' deaths closely mimic heart attacks. Other biochemical weapons produced by Berríos included anthrax and botulism. Berríos also allegedly produced cocaine for Pinochet, who then sold it to Europe and the United States. In the late 1970s, at the height of the Beagle crisis between Chile and Argentina, Berríos is reported to have worked on a plan to poison the water supply of Buenos Aires. Wanted by the Chilean authorities for involvement in the Letelier case, he escaped to Uruguay in 1991, at the beginning of the Chilean transition to democracy, and what has been identified as his corpse was found in 1995 near Montevideo. DINA agent known in the DINA under his alias Hermes, for which he began to work in 1974, Berríos was connected to the creation of the explosive used for Orlando Letelier's car bombing assassination in Washington, D.C. in 1976. In April 1976, Berríos synthesized sarin. He was also suspected, along with DINA agent Michael Townley, of the torture and assassination of the Spanish citizen Carmelo Soria. In 1978, Townley, in a sworn but confidential declaration, stated that sarin gas was produced by the DINA under Berríos' direction. He added that it was used to assassinate the real estate archives custodian Renato Leon Zentino and the Chilean Army Corporal Manuel Leighton. Former head of DINA Manuel Contreras declared to Chilean justice officials in 2005 that the CNI, successor of DINA, handed out monthly payments between 1978 and 1990 to the persons who had worked with Townley in Chile, all members of the far-right group Patria y Libertad. Mariana Colejas, Townley's wife, Francisco Oyarzun, Gustavo Ichapar and Berríos. According to La Nación, Berríos also worked with drug traffickers and Drug Enforcement Administration agents. Fray Montalva questioned in March 2005 by Judge Alejandro Madrid about ex-Chilean Christian Democrat President Eduardo Frei Montalva's death. DINA agent Michael Townley acknowledged links between Colonial Dinidad, led by ex-Nazi Paul Schuffer, and DINA on one hand, and the Laboratorio de Guerra Bacteriológica del Ejército, Army Biological Warfare Laboratory, on the other hand. It is suspected that the toxin that killed Fray Montalva in Santiago's Santa Maria clinic in 1982 was created there. This new laboratory in Colonial Dinidad would have been, according to him, the continuation of the laboratory that the DINA had in Villa Naranja de Locuro, where he worked with Eugenio Berríos in the clandestine unit Getropilin. Townley would also have testified on biological experiments made upon the prisoners in Colonial Dinidad with the help of the two above-mentioned laboratories. Escape, death and trial. On October 26, 1991, a year before the terror archives were found in Paraguay, Eugenio Berríos was escorted from Chile to Uruguay by the Special Unity of the DINA, Dirección de Inteligencia del Ejército, Army's intelligence agency, in order to avoid him testifying before the Chilean court regarding the Letelier case and the case concerning the 1976 assassination of the Spanish diplomat and Cepal civil servant Carmelo Soria. He had just been indicted by the magistrate Adolfo Banaduz in charge of the Letelier case. Operación Silencio started on April 1991, in order to hinder the investigations of the Chilean legal system regarding crimes committed during Pinochet's dictatorship, and the spiriting away of Arturo Sanhueza Ross, linked to the murder of MIR leader Jacques Negmi in 1989. According to the Rettig report, Jacques Negmi's death was carried out by Chilean intelligence agents. In September of that same year, Carlos Herrera Jimenez, who killed trade unionist Tucapel Jimenez, left the country. Berríos followed in October 1991, using passports from 4 different countries, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay and Brazil, raising concerns about Operation Condor still being in place. In Uruguay, he was protected by members of the Chilean and Uruguayan military intelligence as part of La Cofradia, alleged to be the direct heir of Operation Condor. In Uruguay, Berríos was hidden at one of Uruguayan Colonel Eduardo Rodela's family estates at Parque del Plata, using the alias Tulio Orellana. Berríos, however, escaped imprisonment on the 15th of November, 1992, asking for sanctuary next door at a retired Navy officer's residence who, along with his wife, decided to escort him to the closest police station, Sectional 24 Parque del Plata. There, Berríos claimed that he had been kidnapped by Chilean and Uruguayan military officials, that General Pinochet intended to kill him and asking to be taken into custody since he had entered the country using fake documentation. Rodela arrived shortly after, demanding the police officers to hand over Berríos since he was out of his mind, delirious, and in need of treatment. Police officer Elvio Hernandez was uncertain, but later, Uruguayan military officer Thomas Casella arrived at the station also demanding the policeman to hand over Berríos. After receiving a phone call from his superior, Hernandez surrendered Berríos to the Uruguayan officers, and he was never seen again alive. In February 1993, Pinochet traveled to Uruguay, and Officer Casella was appointed as his aide-de-camp. In June 1993, an anonymous letter sent to various Uruguayan deputies denounced Berríos' presence in the country, leading them to request of President Luis Alberto Lickel's government immediate investigations. On June 6, 1993, Lickel immediately dismissed the police chief of Canelones, Ramon Rivas, on charges of not having informed him of what had occurred. 3 days later, official investigations were initiated concerning the Berríos case. On June 9, 1993, 14 Army generals met with the Minister of Defense Mariano Brito, and 2 days later, General Mario Aguirrendo was dismissed. That same June, after the details of the facts surrounding Berríos' murder leaked, Casella, Rodela and Wellington Sarli, another Uruguayan military officer, traveled to Chile to allegedly attend an intelligence course which, according to Casella, was later cancelled since intelligence officers from several other countries were unable to attend. They spent a day in Santiago, and were later flown to Osorno so they could spend some days at the terminus at Paju, with all expense covered. In a 2007 interview, Casella stated that he had first entered into contact with Berríos in March 1992 under the requests of a Chilean intelligence officer, and that he had immediately informed General Mario Aguirrendo, then head of the SID Uruguayan Military Intelligence Agency, now retired, who allegedly ordered him to remain in contact with the Chileans. Finally, a corpse, identified by the Uruguayan justice as that of Berríos, was found in April 1995 in a beach of El Pinar, near Montevideo, with 2 gunshots to the head. His hands and feet were tied together, and forensic examinations declared that after his execution he was put inside a burlap sack, which was in turn tied closed with a rope. Forensic dentistry immediately led to his identification as Berríos. Furthermore, DNA fingerprinting was also done several years later. According to the daughter of Carmelo Soria, the Spanish diplomat assassinated in 1976, Chilean Eduardo Aldunate Herman, second in command of the MINUSTAH United Nations Force in Haiti, was also involved in the assassination of Eugenio Berríos. 3 Uruguayan military officers, Thomas Casella, Washington Sarli and Eduardo Rodela, have been extradited in April 2006 to Chile and were detained there, before being released on bail in September 2006. In October 2006, the Court of Appeal of Santiago stripped Pinochet's parliamentary immunity, who was, in 1992, head of the Chilean military, opening up the way for his judgment concerning the homicide of Berríos. Furthermore, the former directors of the DIN, Hernan Ramirez Rule Range and Eugenio Covarrubias, have been charged of obstruction to justice in this case. Ramirez Rule Range, several other Chilean militaries and 1 civilian, and the 3 Uruguayan officers have also been charged of sequestration, while Eugenio Berríos was charged with sequestration and homicide. Emilio Rojas Gomez, the former Chilean cultural attaché in Montevideo, was also charged with obstruction of justice. On August 11, 2015, all 14 defendants were found guilty by the Supreme Court and sentenced to between 5 and 20 years in prison. Hernan Ramirez Ruarange, sentenced to 20 years, shot and killed himself 2 days later. Allegations concerning Berríos' disappearance in July 2006, after having denounced Augusto Pinochet's involvement in the cocaine trade, former DINA director Manuel Contreras asserted in a judicial document handed to Judge Claudio Pavas, presiding over the investigation concerning the 1992 assassination of Colonel Gerardo Huber, that Berríos was in fact alive and now worked for the DEA. Contreras' lawyer, Fidel Reyes, alleged that the corpse discovered in El Pinar belonged in reality to a foreigner, and that Berríos allegedly had in 2004 attended the funeral, in Chile, of one of his close relatives. According to Contreras' deposition, the cocaine, which was black cocaine especially made to be undetectable, was produced by Berríos in a military installation in Talagante, and both Pinochet's son, Marco Antonio Pinochet, and the businessman Edgardo Bathic were involved in the drug trade. The money from the trade was allegedly directly put in Pinochet's bank accounts abroad. Manuel Contreras' allegations concerning Berríos' alleged survival have been flatly denied by the Uruguayan judge in charge of investigating his assassination, who claims that she is 99% sure of the identification of the corpse found in 1995. And added that DNA analysis had been made a few years later. The Uruguayan film director Esteban Schroeder produced a movie, Matar a Todos, loosely based on Berríos' murder. The movie was adapted from the book 99% Cenado, written by the Uruguayan writer Pablo Virchi, and was presented in the San Sebastian International Film Festival. See also Augusto Pinochet's arrest and trial, Chilean transition to democracy, Chile under Pinochet, Enrique Arancibia Clavel, list of solved missing persons cases. References. External links: new docs showcasing a rescinded warning on assassinations days before Letelier bombing. Video report by Democracy Now!